This is a real African story. As the sun melts gently into the horizon, the village settles in a soft hush. Cooking fires crackle in the distance, sending thin ribbons of smoke into the cooling air, while the scent of wood and simmering meals drifts lazily between mud houses. Abigail lay under a big baobab tree, and slowly she opened her eyes, looking around her surrounding and trying to understand how she got there. For some minutes she seemed lost and couldn't actually remember what happened and why she was lying on the ground under a tree. But gradually the thoughts came back to her, her journey to the stream that morning, the old woman, and how she suddenly collapsed from hunger and exhaustion. As she looked to her side, she noticed a brand new wooden bucket beside her. She picked it up and looked at it critically, wondering how her old bucket turned into something brand new like this. As she ponders, the breeze increased. The birds seemed to have answers for her as they fly right on top of her head. Abigail quickly got to her feet, picked up her bucket, and headed back to the stream. As she goes, she noticed that everywhere was eerily silent, and it was like there was nobody around in the village anymore. As she moves, she calls around, trying to look into huts, but there seemed to be something happening. She got to where the old woman was seated, and something still seemed to be off. The old woman seemed to be glowing. And then, to her surprise, the old woman stood up on her feet. Abigail's mouth opened, and as if that was not enough, the old woman sat back on the stool, and the bandage removed on its own, exposing the big wound on her feet. And just by some mysterious powers, the wound closed up right in front of Abigail's eyes. Abigail almost passed out in shock. As if that was not enough, the old woman's rag transformed right in front of Abigail's eyes. Abigail fell on her knees in reverence, knowing right there and then the old woman had powers and that she was not an ordinary old woman like she had thought. Rays of light seemed to be emanating from her body as she walks with a powerful presence that kept everybody in awe. Gradually, the villagers started coming out of their hut, looking around for the source of the powerful light they saw some while ago. And they saw that the light seemed to be coming from the old woman. They all started moving towards where the old woman used to sit. They all seemed to be in shock and couldn't believe their eyes that the woman that was standing in front of them, glowing powerfully, was the smelly woman they saw. And they all fell on their knees in reverence, sensing the inner powers the woman possessed. The young girls that used to laugh at the woman fell on their knees, weeping and asking for forgiveness. The old woman looked at them and then decided to give them a lesson in kindness.
We must be compassionate and kind to people, for we may be entertaining angels without knowing it.
She then turned to the elderly ones amongst them, shaking her head.
You have been unkind and unfair towards this young orphan. Kindness is a seed, and remember that what goes around comes around.
She then warned them about the dangers of being unkind, especially to strangers. She blessed Abigail, asking her to lead the way to her hut. At Abigail's hut, the old woman looked around and told Abigail that she will be rewarded for her kindness. She stood beside Abigail's hut and hit the ground with her staff, and immediately water gushed out from the ground, and gradually it turned into a very clean flowing stream. She put her staff into the water, declaring that the water will never go dry. All the villagers that followed them to Abigail's house were amazed, and immediately they all started rejoicing and jubilating. Abigail couldn't believe all this were happening to her, and she burst into tears of joy. The villagers learnt a lesson in kindness, and together they all rejoiced at what the old woman had done for Abigail. Abigail knelt in the stream, washing her face and her hands happily. And then the old woman entered Abigail's room. She pointed her staff at a bowl in a corner, and immediately a short tree sprung up with heavy fruits on it. Abigail was amazed, and she plucked one of the fruits. Surprisingly, money spilled out from the fruits. As Abigail rejoiced while the old woman smiled, piles of neat cloth appeared. Abigail couldn't contain her joy, and she ran and hugged the old woman, who patted her on the back and told her that kindness is a seed that germinates and returns with plenty fruits. As the old woman stepped out to leave, waving goodbye at Abigail, Abigail couldn't contain her sorrow as she wept, and just as the woman took few steps forward, she disappeared. And from that day forward, the poor orphan girl became rich, and her story became a lesson that elders of that village still tell children generations after. And Abigail made sure that she passes on the baton of kindness to anybody that needs help in the village. And so the life of the poor orphan girl was transformed by kindness. When the seed of kindness enters the ground, it will always return to the sower in multiple folds.